Okay, we're ready for section 5.3 now. We're going to do more trinomials. The difference between this section and the last section is that now we're going to have a number in front of x squared. Okay, and unlike the last section where sometimes we had one there and we pulled it out with a common factor, that's not going to work here. So we're going to have a number here in front of the x squared, and that's going to be the difference. So the process is going to start in a similar manner. We're still going to try to find a pair and use to multiply, but now it has to multiply to be the same thing as a times c. So the number in front of the x squared and that number at the end. Whatever that is, that's what we need our pair to multiply to. And it still is going to add up to the number in the middle. At that point, we're going to factor by grouping. And we'll see how that works here on this example right over here. So here's my example, 6x squared minus 7x minus 3. 6 times negative 3 gives me negative 18. The middle number is a negative 7. So that's what I need my pair to multiply and add to. I need to multiply to be negative 18 and add up to negative 7. So again, I've listed pairs here that multiply to be 18. Just like in the last section, I would highly recommend find the pairs, worry about the negatives after that. So here are my pairs, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. You'll see that I circled the 2 and 9 and made the 9 negative because, again, checking my pair, 2 times negative 9 is negative 18, 2 plus negative 9 is negative 7. So we get the pair that we need, okay? Now we're going to factor by grouping. So here's where it gets a little bit different, a little bit messy. We only have 3 terms. We have to split our middle term up, and that's where we're going to use the pair, and then we can factor by grouping. So when I look at this, I'm going to rewrite it as 6x squared, and then there's a 2, so I'm going to use plus 2x, and a minus 9, so minus 9x minus 3. Now I do need to be a little bit careful here when I do the grouping. So I put a set of parentheses around the first pair, but notice I have a negative 9x. If I'm not careful, if I just draw this and put the parentheses around the 9x minus 3, that's going to be bad because we just lost that negative sign. So instead, make that an addition sign and tuck that negative inside with the 9. And that would be really good here. So now we're going to find all those common factors, just like we did before. For these first two, my common factor is 2x. So I'm going to divide both parts by 2x. Remember to put your common factor in front. And then when you do your division, that's what goes in the parentheses. 6 divided by 2 is 3. We subtract our exponents. 2 minus 1 is 1, so I get x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Don't lose the 1. Okay, it's not just the 2x's canceling out. We are dividing, we get 1. But the x's do go away, we just get x. And then I come here. Now, this is a good problem. 9 and 3 are both divisible by 3. And so you'll be tempted to try 3 here. And what we're going to see what happens when we do positive 3. So negative 9 divided by 3 is a negative 3x, and negative 3 divided by 3 is a minus 1. And here's what I want us to notice, and we'll fix it here because we do have a problem here. My parentheses don't match, but they are opposites of each other. I have a positive 3x plus 1 here, and I have a negative 3x and a minus 1 there. What that means is, instead of using 3, we should have used negative 3. Because that will make all my signs work out. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. Now my parentheses match, so now I have that common factor for the parentheses again. Okay, so if you need to, go back to section 1 and look at factoring by grouping, because that's really what's happening here. So we have that common factor. We're going to divide by that set of parentheses, the 3x plus 1 in both places. We remember that our common factor goes in front, and then we divide. The parentheses drop out. When we divide, we get 2x from the first one. We get a minus 3 from the second one. And there we have it. It's factored. Okay, so it's a factoring by grouping problem, but we start with that pair to allow us to split up the middle piece so that we have 4 terms and can do factoring by grouping. All right, we'll do at least one more example. So here's our next example. As you can see, my board is maybe just a little too small for some of this, so try and hang in there and watch this a few times if you need to. All right, so I'm starting with this, 12x cubed plus 38x squared plus 20x. All right, and so hopefully you can see it with the glare on the board, but I think you probably can. All right, so this is an example where we have a common factor. 12, 38, and 20 are all divisible by 2, and all three terms have an x. We need to do that common factor first. We're not factoring this with a cube in it like it is. So we need to do that common factor first. So I divide everything by 2x. Again, don't forget to set that 2x out front. When we do the division, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we get 6x squared. 38 divided by 2 is 19. 2 minus 1 gives me x. And 20 divided by 2 is 10. All right, now, notice I circled the 2x and said to save it. That's because we're really done with that right now. And in fact, if you skip ahead and look at my answer, you'll see that same 2x sitting in front of the answer. So that's all we're going to do with that common factor at this point. It's going to be part of our answer, like we can see over there, but we don't need it for the rest of trying to figure this out. So now I'm working with the stuff in the parentheses. Factor this now. So here we have another trinomial. We need a pair that multiplies to be the same as 6 times 10, right? A times C. 6 times 10 is 60, and adds up to the 19 in the middle. So you'll see that I listed all the pairs over there that multiply to be 60. This one's pretty nice because everything's positive, so we don't have to worry about any negatives. And as you can see, I selected 4 and 15. So I took my 19x, and I split it into 4x and 15x. Okay, again, we're always taking that middle term and we're splitting it into two pieces. Now I'm factoring by grouping. In the first pair, they have 2x in common. So 6 divided by 2, so the 2x goes in front. 6 divided by 2 is 3. You can subtract your exponents. 2 minus 1 is 1, so we get x. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and those x's drop out. So the first one, we get 2, ignore this for just a second, we get 2x times 3x plus 2. For the second one, 15x and 10, they have just a 5 in common. So that's what I'm dividing by there. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I have 3x plus 2. And I'm remembering to put that 5 in front. Okay, when you do that division, always put that number you're dividing by in front. So at this point, we have a common factor in both sets. It's that set of parentheses. So you'll see that I divided both sets by that set of parentheses, which is nice because now it drops out, right, when we divide. But I'm going to piece it all together. There's the 2x from before. Here's the 3x plus 2 that I just divided by to put in front of this whole thing. And then when I did the division, we got the 2x and the 5. So hopefully that works for you. These take a little bit of practice, but they're really very doable. Just hang in there, and by all means, show up and ask me questions. So thank you.